Hi, let's deal with this huge myth that salespeople are totally motivated by money. And if you're a human being, you know that you are motivated by more than one thing. But there is a big myth that salespeople are very, very money focused. Now, of course they are, because we need to get paid. We need to have an income. But there's a huge misconception that salespeople are either driven by money or completely obsessed by money. And because of that, most sales incentives within companies, within sales teams, are focused on monetary rewards. So you get this amount of sales, you get that amount of commission, and whatever system that is being used. But this is basically the standard template that almost all companies use. And this is sensible thinking if earning money is a top priority for your salespeople. But most of the time it is not. And there's various different reasons for that. And when I'm working with sales managers, showing them how to motivate and lead their teams to a higher standard, it's often a huge shock to them. There's actually 4 or 5 different reasons. We're going to cover a couple of them in this video. There's 4 or 5 big reasons why having more money or a bigger sales incentive is actually not the best thing to get people to be really motivated and do the best they can and achieve the best results. So if your salesperson is motivated by money, then your system probably is going to work. You can tweak it, you can improve it, but you've got a system that works for people who have money as their top priority. But I would say the vast majority of your salespeople are not completely motivated by money. Yes, everyone wants to get paid, but there's other things that can motivate them far more. So what if your salespeople are not motivated by money as much as you think? What if they want to be rewarded by something even more valuable to them than money? So this is the really important thing to think about. And this is important to think about what money is for. Money in itself is useless. It's only valuable when we can exchange it for the things that we think we either desire or need. So once you get to a certain amount of money where you either don't want anything else, or more likely it cannot be bought with money, then money becomes irrelevant. So no matter the amount of money offered, it won't motivate them to hit their targets that they've been set. So I'm going to take you through a case study, just give you an example in a second of an actual real life client who had this. And when I have conversations with developing sales managers, and here's the interesting thing, a lot of sales managers are never taught how to motivate their team on an individual basis, because they're asked to either create or manage a scheme that's already been set up. But motivating people is, especially salespeople who get a lot of rejection, get a lot of pressure, managing them is incredibly important. But if your main thinking is that money is the most important thing, well, or the system says money is the most important thing, you're going to be in trouble and you won't get the best out of people. So to get the best out of your people, you need to understand what really motivates them. And this is the most valuable thing that people, managers and leaders, can do, is understand their people deeply, because human beings are different. There's some core common similarities, but everybody's motivated by different things. And if you can latch into what they are, and without necessarily asking people, because often they don't know themselves personally at a deep level, or they may be motivated by different targets, or they have different problems, it may be you can get the best out of them without ever having to offer them any more money. In fact, offering them more money means nothing to them. So I'll give you a real life example. Many years ago, I was speaking to a client and I said, "Hey, you in a good mood?" She said, "Yeah, I just hit my sales targets." And I said, "Oh, brilliant." And I said, "So what happens now?" She said, I said, do you get more higher commission if you then exceed your target?" And she says, "Yeah, I do." She shrugged her shoulders and I went, "Hello, what's that?" And then she said, "But I don't care about that." So this is where this comes from. This particular client many years ago latched me onto this. She's hit a sales target and something really interesting happened. The moment she hit a sales target, she turned off. And I said, so what happens now? She said, I'm just going to relax. I'm just going to chill out. Now, this person hit her sales targets hard every quarter. And as soon as she hit them, she turned off and set herself up for the next quarter. Now, unless her sales manager is pretty daft and was not paying attention to what's going on, or was happy with that, it's something going wrong there, because she suddenly turns off. She coasts, and this was this was within 6 weeks of her quarterly target. So I said, well, doesn't your manager push you? And he said, not really. And I think it's because if they pushed her, they know she'll leave. And the reason for this is what I'm going to explain to you now. I asked her what would motivate her to push harder. Would it be a higher commission? She said, no. My husband makes more than enough money. I do this because the job's interesting, gives me something to do. I enjoy sales, but I don't need the money. Boom. Money's not important. And I said to her, so to get you working more for the rest of the time, what would you want as your reward, your commission? And she said, time off. That's it. That's all the sales manager needed to know. If she then hit another target and then got X number of hours, a half day off or a day off, she would work harder, hit higher targets, and be happier because she would be less time in the office. If they put the target up, and I asked her, if they put the sales target up to push and said, I'll just leave. And that's probably why they didn't do it, because they know she would leave because it wasn't that important to her. So she did it for the enjoyment. She did it for something to do, but she wasn't motivated by the money. It's just because in her circumstance in life that she didn't need the money because her husband's job was incredibly well paying and money wasn't that important to her. So experience, time, doing something with the family, having time for herself. So she would spend less time in the office and sell more if they'd just gone that little bit deeper and find out what was motivating her. Now, there's all sorts of things that motivate salespeople. The biggest one is not hitting the target. The biggest one is making sure you don't miss the target. And that's a very different form of motivation. Fear of being criticized, judged, or ultimately losing the job is by far the bigger motivation. If you only have to watch the activity of salespeople as it comes up to the end of the quarter, making sure they don't miss their targets rather than hit their targets, two very different ways of thinking. But every single person in your team, if you're a sales manager, has something that will really strongly motivate them to do more than they're doing at the moment. Always there is something. And if you know what that is, like in this lady, if you would change the rules, motivate her in the way that she needs to be motivated for her individually, then you would have got a lot more sales out of her, happily, because every time she got a sale in, she knew she was going to get some time off. So do you understand what's really motivating your people? Do you know how to even get into that part of their brain to find out what is really driving them? And secondly, is your system flexible enough to be able to motivate them as individuals? Because often what happens is there is a standard process of standard commission for everybody, and it rarely works. It rarely works efficiently. It's the lowest common denominator rather than the thing that creates the highest results. So I hope this has been useful to you. And if you're a sales manager or you're a salesperson who perhaps is wondering why you're not letting yourself be motivated, and I've worked with people who sell their own product, their own services, who hold back from doing that. And that's a very confusing thing when we become demotivated in our sales, which seems a bit strange, or you're a sales manager who wants to learn how to motivate your team more, then please get in touch. We are really good at showing people and helping them understand what motivates and demotivates people. We're all about how to improve people's behaviors, whether it's you as an individual or it's your team. But please get in touch. We're really good at this. I hope this has been useful to you and got you thinking. People in some ways are quite simple, incredibly varied, complex in some respects. But once you understand them, once you understand the formula of understanding people, then motivating people to helping them to do their best and enjoy what they're doing more is actually quite easy. So I hope this has been useful to you. Hope to speak to you soon. And I hope this has really got you thinking. It's a good myth to bust, I think.